Hello, my name's Ernest and I'm the Policy Officer for Children in Northern Ireland. We are the regional umbrella organisation for the children's sector in Northern Ireland with over 120 members, from small community-based organisations right up to large national charities and everything in between. Our vision is a society where all children are valued, treated fairly and able to flourish. We work towards this by influencing, learning and collaboration. One of our strategic priorities is addressing child food insecurity. What is food insecurity? Well, you may have heard of food poverty, that is being unable to afford enough food to ensure a healthy diet. Food security takes into account the availability of food and the ability of people to access, afford, and source adequate quantities of food. Therefore, child food insecurity is about the extent to which our children and young people are negatively impacted by difficulties in accessing, affording, and securing enough food to ensure a healthy diet. Similar to other organisations like the Food Foundation, we lobby for change to guarantee a child's right to food. We also run a series of food and activity programmes across Northern Ireland known as the Gets Active project, which provide healthy meals, snacks, sports and games throughout the school holidays. In 2022, we were asked to join a steering group of Ingredients for Success, a new research project driven by colleagues in Scotland. There's been a lot of recent interest in school food as awareness of food poverty and insecurity continues to grow. These are some of the publications from the Scottish Poverty and Inequality Research Unit based at Glasgow Caledonian University if you're interested in finding some more background to this research project and who conducted it. The research unit is independent of the Scottish Government and led by Professor John McKendrick. Following a prompt from Lindsay Graham, one of Scotland's Poverty and Inequality Commissioners, Professor McKendrick convened the steering group and led a research team that conducted a review of key literature and a UK-wide survey at the end of 2022. We helped spread the word about the survey and some of you may have completed it online. The survey covered a lot of ground when it comes to food education, partly because each member of the steering group was keen to capture as much information on issues that were important to their organisations. We also wanted to get a comprehensive picture of what is happening across the different regions. Here are the key themes that we focused on and some of the detail of the questions that we asked. So things like supply and ingredients, financial contributions, equipment and accessories, school operations, access to food education, changes in the school year, food education, food insecurity and well-being, perceptions of food education, and some profile information as well. Not surprisingly, most of the teachers who completed the survey were based in England, followed by a good proportion from Scotland. A total of 30 teachers in Northern Ireland responded and 23 in Wales. So you can see that due to the limited sample size in Northern Ireland, it would be difficult to make any great claims regarding this data. Nevertheless, it still gives us a clear indication of how some teachers feel, what they experience, and a way of contrasting that with what is happening elsewhere. Let's look at some of the main insights from the research. So how many pupils supply ingredients? You can see a real contrast here between the proportion of those who said all pupils supply ingredients and those who said none. This is driven partly by the example of Scotland, where schools receive funding to pay for ingredients. Compared to England and Wales, Northern Ireland also stands out, with 2/3 of teachers indicating that no pupils supply ingredients. Despite this, only a quarter of those surveyed in Northern Ireland indicated that the cost of ingredients was never a barrier to participation. The findings UK-wide suggest that overall, cost is a significant issue. In terms of whether pupils eligible for free school meals are more likely to choose food and nutrition as an exam subject, Northern Ireland appears to be lagging behind other parts of the UK, and the average of respondents 14% who agreed. This was only 8% of those surveyed in Northern Ireland. The vast majority across the regions saw no real difference, and on average, 1 in 10 said they felt that these pupils would be less likely to choose food and nutrition as an exam subject. This slide shows a breakdown of responses to the question of the impact on pupils that do not bring ingredients. Somewhat reassuringly, over half indicated that these young people would still take part in the lesson, with the school providing necessary ingredients. However, contrast that with some of the other responses, including 1 in 10 who said that pupils were sanctioned with detention. The question of whether pupils should contribute to costs is covered in this next slide. Again, there's a clear contrast here between Northern Ireland and the other regions, with almost 80% suggesting that pupils should contribute to costs based on their family's ability to pay. The UK average was only 34%, and in Scotland only 19% of respondents agreed with this statement. On average, across the UK, 62% said that no pupil should have to contribute to costs. The survey asked, should food education have a role in tackling food insecurity? And the findings here are really encouraging. Nearly all those in Northern Ireland agreed that it should, and that resonates with the general feeling across the different regions. We also asked whether food education actually contributes to tackling food insecurity, and again, most agreed that it did. In Northern Ireland, 38% felt that it contributed a lot. Less than 10% across the UK suggested that it didn't contribute anything. Here is a breakdown of some of the ideas that teachers put forward when responding to the question of how food education should contribute to tackling food insecurity. Cooking on a budget, minimising waste and lowering shopping costs were the top 3 elements of teaching highlighted by the survey. A significant proportion, 68%, suggested removing the stigma around food insecurity, and many responses related to initiatives like community fridges, larders and pantries. The survey also asked teachers about some of the things that they may have observed during class in the last year related to issues around poverty and food insecurity. Bearing in mind that some of these results may be influenced by an element of confirmation bias, they are still noteworthy as an indication of what some teachers have observed. 1 in 10 teachers in Northern Ireland suggested that children appeared more hungry. At UK-wide levels, 60% said that they saw more children eating immediately, and a third observed more children taking food away. This slide shows some of the changes that teachers have made in the classroom. In response to levels of food insecurity and the impact of food inflation that is a key driver of the cost of living crisis. Affordability is a key theme here, and using alternatives is also important. A quarter said they had started increasing the ingredients that the school provide. Here are some observations around the difficulties faced by pupils who have to supply ingredients. A quarter of teachers indicated that the number and the range of pupils not bringing ingredients has increased. They say that pupils are reporting that they simply cannot supply them. Compared to other regions, Northern Ireland appears to be in a better position regarding technician support, but still just over half say they have enough. Worryingly, 57% of those surveyed indicated that their budget for purchasing ingredients has not changed despite the high levels of inflation that we've seen. Only a quarter of those surveyed in Northern Ireland felt that the subject was viewed as important as others by senior management. Clearly, the vast majority feel that it's not considered on par with other subjects. And most teachers agree that food education should be closer to social subjects to tackle food poverty. This question was trying to gauge the level of crossover with other subjects and how they can work in tandem with each other to address issues such as food poverty. So the 3 key takeaways from our research and this presentation would be around thinking more about food insecurity and how it impacts our children and young people. Tackling food insecurity and poverty is everyone's business, and it's not just up to government and those that push and pull economic levers. We all have a role to play in lifting children out of poverty and ensuring our young people have access to healthy food. You can't solve the problem, but you can contribute to the solution, no matter how small that might be. Think back to the slides covering changes made in the classroom, or the ideas put forward about how food education can help, spreading awareness of support, removing the stigma, learning about minimising costs, waste and managing budgets. The main thing is don't exacerbate the problem and think carefully about the impacts on young people. Thanks very much for listening, and please get in touch if you have any questions. Enjoy the rest of the conference.